What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, Joker back again once again. Bungie, the gift that keeps on giving and disappointing. From the company that gave us the IGN article about a studio full of abusive assholes, we have something truly special today. Someone in such abject denial of reality that they cannot discern reality from a video game. From the mind that brought us the barren wasteland that is Europa, design lead at Bungie Worlds, Peter, Tbagging is pantomime sexual abuse, end of conversation, Scarrett. You heard me right, oh viewer mine. The design lead at Bungie, Peter Scarrett, or whatever the fuck his name is, believes that the troll kiss, the fly trap, the pro bag, the beef flap, the muffin drop, the dirty dancing, the viney eclipse, the potato sacking, the lull bagging, the eye of doom, the celebratory crouch, the clamp stamp, a rose by any other name, the teabag, is equivocal to sexual abuse. He believes it so hard that it's not even up for debate. He said so at the end of his tweet, end of conversation. Well, this is kind of awkward because Bungie then really has some explaining to do about this.
Remember, what happens in the crypt stays in the crypt. Celebratory crouching option.
Awkward. I guess Bungie supports abuse. Hell, according to Peter's logic here, they're advertising it as a good thing. But of course, we know that this is ridiculous. Anybody with a functioning frontal cortex knows that this is ridiculous. What kind of attention-seeking piece of shit do you have to be to diminish, dismiss, invalidate, and belittle the suffering of people all over the world by comparing the violent, dehumanizing, soul-crushing act of violating somebody's physical autonomy in one of the most horrific ways imaginable to a taunt in a video game? Does playing Destiny pantomime the brutal murder of other people? Or the genocide of entire civilizations? Does liking the factions pantomime racism? Because your company decided that they didn't want to deal with the factions anymore, so people who love them and their lore could get stuffed because, well, now they're all just terrible people. And is wearing faction gear pantomiming being a brown shirt? No, of course not. That's ridiculous. At best, let's say for the sake of argument, you know, the good old incompetence versus malice thing. Let's say that you thought this was a good thing to say, that you were going to be a moral arbiter. After all, Bungie has gotten its ass dragged through the mud lately for its repugnant behavior behind closed doors. Gotta make yourself look good. And let's assume, for the sake of argument, that this is just a pathetic attempt at virtue signaling without using that barren wasteland you call a fucking brain to spend 2 seconds to think about what you're actually going to say. Teabagging is pantomimed sexual abuse, end of conversation, is a tone-deaf display of fucking ignorance that invalidates the real experiences of people all over the world. Why? So you can pat yourself on the back on the internet and get some brownie points? Oh, look, I said the right thing. Oh, look, I'm a good person. Oh, look at how good I am. If you're trolling, then you don't care about any of this, but Bungie should. After all, Pete Parsons, your boss, said he wanted to change Bungie, to purge this sort of regressive thinking root and stem. You know, after IGN outed the decade of abuse going on at Bungie. 6 of those years, if volunteered public records are correct, you worked there for. What lack of basic fucking empathy must you have to equate the violent, dehumanizing, and soul-crushing act of violating somebody's personal autonomy to that time you got your ass kicked in a video game and somebody taunted you by, as Bungie coined themselves, celebratory crouching.
Remember, what happens in the crypt stays in the crypt. Celebratory crouching option.
But let's take this to its logical conclusion. You made a moral judgment, a moral equivocation of people being taunted in a video game to the violation of another human being. And you say that they are categorically the same thing. End of conversation. So is this just hot air? Is this you just virtue signaling? Or is Bungie going to move to ban all teabaggers? And if Bungie doesn't start banning teabaggers, doesn't that mean by your warped logic that they secretly support all that means? I mean, is banning even enough? We are talking about one of the most vile crimes one human being can perpetuate on another. And you're still working for this company that secretly supports this sort of thing. Actually, I guess not so secretly, because the proof's in the pudding.
Remember, what happens in the crypt stays in the crypt. Celebratory crouching option.
Clearly, Bungie openly supports this. Get bent, Peter Scratata, or whatever your name is, and shove your disingenuous, dehumanizing virtue signaling up your ass. Is teabagging rude? Sure. probably one of the ruder ways to taunt. Is there a whole psychology around the taunt itself and using it as a weapon to anger your opponent and throwing them off their game? Absolutely. It is not pantomiming abuse. And the fact that you would belittle the experiences of countless people to make a flaccid at best point about a rude taunt shows how morally repugnant and disgustingly out of touch with reality you truly are.